Hi everyone, my name's Anna, and this is my case presentation on Casey White and Correctional Officer Vicky White. So, Casey White was an inmate that was at the Lauderdale County Jail in Florence, Alabama, to prepare for his murder trial, where Vicky White was a correctional officer. Casey White was, at the time, serving a 75-year prison sentence for attempted murder and other crimes. The two had some sort of a special relationship spanning from when he was first brought to the jail in 2020 to the time that the two plotted an escape together. In April of 2022, Casey White was escorted out of the jail in handcuffs in the custody of Vicky White, under the impression that she was escorting him to a mental health evaluation. There was actually no appointment made for him, and it was just a ruse for Vicky to help Casey escape so they could run away together. The two were on the run for a total of 11 days when authorities initiated a pursuit with the vehicle that they were in. Vicky was found dead on the scene with a firearm, and it was implied that she had shot herself, knowing what would happen when they were to be caught. So, sexual misconduct in corrections happens both consensually and non-consensually. While it's a subcultural norm to be against becoming too close to the inmates, correctional officers have a power that makes inmates inclined to do what they want, or because they are receiving some sort of special treatment, or they're under the impression they would receive special treatment. So Vicky White and Casey White's relationship was definitely a misuse of her authority, and it was a clear example of unethical behavior. Vicky called Casey at other prisons when he was transferred after they had met several times, and she was like a secret pen pal to him. She developed feelings for him, and while it's kind of unknown if he felt the exact same way, it's clear that he knew he could use whatever relationship they had, like including her attraction to him, as an escape from the prison. Consensual relationships between staff and inmates have clearly been made illegal because it's definitely a misuse of power and inappropriate behavior. So the Bureau of Justice Statistics collected data on the frequency of sexual victimization in jails and prisons. So in 2011, 49% of the 8,763 allegations involved staff members. Of these incidents that were reported, 54% were perpetuated by female employees. In addition to this, of all the incidents involving staff inmate sexual misconduct, 84% of those were committed by female employees that were involved in a willing, consensual sexual relationship with the inmate. The Prison Rape Elimination Act from 2003 mandates regulation and reduction of staff inmate sexual misconduct in state correctional facilities. This was actually the first law that was passed in the US concerning prisoner assault in general, and it required prison systems to collect data relating to sexual misconduct and assault. It also required the Bureau of Justice Statistics to collect the information on sexual assaults from these prisons. Following this law, it was reported that by 2009, approximately 1/3 of sexual assault allegations involved staff sexual misconduct. So, one explanation of this was they expanded the definition of rape listed in the Prison Rape Elimination Act. So the act was set as a clear definition in order to avoid any sort of confusion. It's not uncommon for male prisoners to initiate inappropriate interactions with female staff for just the sole purpose of establishing an inappropriate relationship. Interestingly enough, these inappropriate relationships of a sexual nature don't include cases of coercion or exploitation on part of the employee. It's far more common for male correctional officers to prey upon female inmates to coerce or exploit relationships for some sort of personal gain. So, inmates involved in genuine relationships, ones that are not being used for exploitation, will often hide their relationships from staff as well as fellow prisoners because they know that other inmates can rat them out if they have the proper incentive to do so. So while some of these relationships just in general are genuine, the inmate knows that they can still get something out of the staff member, whether it's more private time, more commissary money, an actual romantic or sexual relationship, or just another outlet in order to speak on to their friends and family, like on their behalf. So this case is an extreme example of what an inappropriate staff inmate relationship could lead to. So in some ways, it was both genuine to Vicky and Casey. It's kind of easier for us as outsiders to understand the implications of an inappropriate relationship and see how those boundaries were crossed and maybe where those boundaries should have been drawn harder. It kind of just started as talking, whether it was in person, on the phone, or through letters, and it led to them, falling in love, quote unquote, scheming, and then ultimately carrying out an escape plan so that they could, run off and live a happily ever after, which clearly didn't happen. So the whole escape and police pursuit occurred early this year, so meaning that most of us were probably following along if you knew it was happening at the time. And it kind of makes it easier to understand the concept of inappropriate correctional relationships just as it plays out in real time. So, so sexual misconduct is not often clearly defined, other than a clear definition of rape and sometimes sexual assault, especially when those are listed in like the Prison Rape Elimination Act or in other laws. Some people can easily justify the relationships they have, even with an inappropriate power dynamic. We see this outside of jails and prisons all the time. People who begin to have a relationship with their boss or a direct supervisor. And even though that's still an inappropriate relationship, it's kind of easier for them to justify it because it's not this staff inmate power dynamic. So Casey and Vicky White were able to justify their sneaky behavior in order to establish a relationship. Vicky White was willing to retire early, which was her original plan, and kind of throw her reputation on the line just to have this inappropriate relationship with someone that she had fallen for. And then Casey White is now serving another sentence for the death of Vicky White. In the state of Alabama, where this happened, someone can get a murder charge if they cause the death of another person while engaging in certain felonies. So, like in this case, it was evading the authorities. So, in the end, she ultimately gave up her life to have a romantic relationship with an inmate, and she didn't really even get to enjoy the freedom that came with that. And then here are my references. Thanks for watching.